pencil, because when you work with water spray and you're almost close to remove the depth marks, it's very difficult to see it. If you have the marking with a pencil, it's so easy to see it, so it really makes sense. Next step is I go ahead and I place the margin. And placing the margin at this time of the treatment just means more or less perfect. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect margin. You just place it 90-95%. That's okay. We will do the finish a little bit later. So I use again the 2 diamond burr, and very important, we work only with the tip of the burr at the beginning, because now we are placing the margin. So the rest of the burr is not touching. Okay? So as you can see, I'm working in a different inclination, and now I'm starting down at the cervical margin, and then I go all the way up to the mesial, and also all the way up to the distal. And again, it's only the tip of the burr touching. Okay? Because if only the tip of the burr is touching, you avoid from creating a margin like this. Very often during the hands-on, I see people preparing these kind of margin. And if you have a margin like this, which is coming up again, it's a nightmare for the lab technician. There's no chance to bring the ceramic into a U-shaped margin. Not at all. You will always have a very unprecise veneer. And then after placing the margin roughly, then I go ahead and reduce the depth cuts. And this is the good part of the 2 diamond burr. I don't have to switch the burr. I just go ahead, I don't have to change anything. And I use these burr only for 1 patient, and then I throw it away. I don't reuse it. I mean, it's reusable, of course, but I don't do it because I really want to have a brand new instrument. Okay, after doing this, we start to finish the margin. And the first step, again, we use this burr, we work only with the tip, blah, blah, blah. I already told this to you. Now I'm going ahead and now I place the margin 98-99% perfect. It still is not 100% perfect after finishing these steps. And you see, I always start down at the cervical margin, I always go up. And then, after placing the margin almost perfect, what I do to finish the preparation, you have to use, it's not possible with an air turbine, you have to have an electric handpiece. And then I switch down the speed of a maximum speed of 1000 RPM, so very, very low speed. I switch off the water spray, and then without water spray and very low speed, because I don't want to heat up the plug, of course. Very low speed and under control of the loops or the microscope, I'm trying to place the perfect margin design. So as you see here, you can see how slow the burr is rotating. And this gives me the best possible control. So I can really, really create the perfect finish line. And that's is very important for the lab technician, because otherwise, for him it's difficult to deliver a perfect fitting veneer. and I don't want to run into any problems. Okay, before taking the impression, I try to smooth everything out. I just take a disc, whatever the brand, doesn't matter, I don't care. But I would always recommend to use a disc to smooth everything, to round everything, to make sure there are no sharp edges. Because if you have a sharp edge, you can cause a microfracture later in the veneer, in the ceramic. And this might result in a fracture after 1, 2, 3 years, whatever. And I don't want to see the need to redo a veneer, because it doesn't make the patient happy, and it's very difficult for the lab technician to create exactly the same color again. So I always spend a little bit of time just to make sure around everything, I smooth everything, and then I take the impression. Before taking impression, there's one more thing I would recommend to do, and this is, I do a little bit of approximate stripping. I use a diamond strip, like this one. This is also from Comet. I love this one because of the small tiny holes. Because of the holes, it doesn't get so easy stuck in between the teeth. And don't open up the contact point, okay? It's just a little bit of reduction to make sure the impression material, the light body material, goes in between the two preparation. Because if I don't have to change the position of the tooth, because let's say there's no need for changing the midline or something like this, I prep only 50% into the contact points, so there is still the contact point. And if you don't do these kind of approximate stripping, for the lab technician, it's very difficult to see where's the end of this preparation and where's the beginning of that preparation. So with this, just 1, 2, 3 moves, that's it, okay? And I always use a red strip, so it's fine, don't use a curved strip. Because with a curved strip, you will open the contact point. Margin of the temporary. Of course, what we do in our clinic is we never take the temporary of a veneer case out, work on the margin and on the temporary outside of the mouth of the patient, and then cement it. We always try to use all mechanical retention, so we keep the temporary in the mouth of the patient after removing the silicone index, and we create the margin directly on the patient. Because then we can use all mechanical retention, so we don't have to etch and bond it. When I did my education for veneer cases at the NYU in New York in 2003, we did a tiny spot etching on every veneer, which of course makes the temporary stay in place. But when the patient is in your clinic to do the try-in, and you bonded the temporary in, it takes a lot of time to remove it. And I want to make life easier, not more complicated. So there is no need for spot etching. Just go ahead, use the mechanical retention, and then it's easy to remove it for the try-in. Otherwise, sometimes it takes 1 hour just to remove the temporary. This burr is especially for working on the margin of the veneer. It's a very long and pointed burr. Again, this is a fine burr to create a really smooth margin. And normally, if you create the silicone index with the honeycomb material of DMG and you use both the putty and the light body material, you will not see something like this, okay? Because normally there's not a huge amount of excess of like the temp material, but nevertheless, even if you have a huge amount like this, it's so easy to remove it. This is the inclination of the burr, that just follow the margin, and within less than 1 minute, I can easily remove these huge amount of excess. It's so easy. You see, I also